What was wrong with Human Development Index as a measurement to measure most of the things that you were talking about?
The Human Development Index was a step forward in that it brought into the discussion aspects like education, health, but it is, you might say, an arbitrary weighting of the three components, and doesn't really address any of the deeper problems that we talk about in our report. So it's important in that it expands the agenda beyond GDP, but doesn't correct the GDP numbers and doesn't really, it's you might say, an arbitrary, weighing of those.
You're talking about well-being as a central issue. In Ecuador, in the new constitution, well-being is a central issue also. At the same time, the government is expanding massively the mining industry. Does that contradict?
Not if you do it right. This is not anti-mining. It just says that if you have a mine, you make sure that you get adequate compensation, that you take into account in your evaluation whether it's the right thing, the consequences for health, for the environment. This is not meant to be anti-mining, but it is to say that you need to look very carefully at the costs and benefits. And GDP doesn't do that as the way we've measured it in the past.
And have you been looking to the example of Ecuador to see if they are doing it in a...
No, I haven't had a chance to look at that particular example.
You didn't speak about a Tobin tax as a regulatory measure.
Oh, I did. I mentioned that in Germany there is now a great deal of support for a financial services tax that's called a Tobin tax, and I mentioned that as one of the instruments that could be used to downsize an oversized financial sector and to rebalance the fact that the financial sector has received massive subsidies from other parts of the economy and has imposed very large cost on other parts of the economy. And whenever you have a situation like that, you need corrective measures, and this may be one of the corrective measures.
Originally, that tax was also meant to accumulate money to invest in developing countries. Would that still be the idea of such a regulatory tax today?
It certainly could be. It certainly makes a great deal of sense, particularly because they have been one among those who have suffered the most from the excessive volatility of global financial markets. As it was pointed out at the beginning of the discussion, among the countries that have been most adversely affected by the crisis have been the developing countries. So it certainly makes sense. It's also the case that we need to find new mechanisms for providing assistance to developing countries. Everybody agrees that so far the developed countries have not lived up to their commitments, and we will need to find alternative ways of helping them live up to their commitments.
And do you see this crisis as an opportunity to do that, or is it threatening even the way to support development in the poor countries?
I think both are true. I think there is a risk that in the budget stringency that has resulted from the profligate spending to bail out the banks, there will be pressure to cut out, quote, anything that's unnecessary, and in many countries, development assistance will fall within that category, so that's the threat. On the other hand, the awareness that we're all in it together, and that it's going to be hard to have a robust global recovery without participation of the developing countries is an occasion to put more focus on development.